The time has finally come for Stranger Things to end, and while there are only 5 seasons, it's taken nearly a decade for those to happen. A lot of shows have come and gone since 2016, and some of them managed to cover a whole lot more ground. Seriously, how old are those Hawkins kids now? It might have been based on the Archie comics of old, but Riverdale was not your grandfather's comic book series. The CW show lasted for 7 seasons and 137 episodes, and in that time, Archie Andrews and friends confronted everything from tickle videos to organ harvesting cults to serial killer genes to superpowers and immortal pilgrims. There was so much going on and hardly any of it made sense, but that was all part of the fun. There were even musical episodes, because of course there were.
I've got a crazy idea.
Let's be normal. See bad movies. Sneak a beer and watch TV.
Look, it would take an entire 30-minute video to try and explain the show in any way, so we'll just leave it at that. It was absolutely bonkers, but it couldn't have been anything less. To say that the Big Bang Theory was a cultural phenomenon would be kind of an understatement, so it wasn't much of a surprise when CBS announced it would be getting a spin-off series, and who better to lead than anyone's favorite prodigy, Sheldon Cooper. Young Sheldon was exactly that, a look at the early life and upbringing of the child genius.
Hang up the phone, it's dinner time.
Be right there, Mom. I'm doing battle with corporate America.
While it didn't have quite the run of its predecessor, Young Sheldon did make it through 7 seasons and 141 episodes. That's a whole lot of bazinga. By 2018, Taylor Sheridan had already cemented himself as a writer with films like Sicario and Hell or High Water. But Yellowstone, a neo-western centered on the Dutton family and their surrounding enemies, was Sheridan's first foray into TV production. The show starred Kevin Costner as family patriarch John Dutton and was originally pitched to HBO as The Godfather on horseback. The network passed, Paramount picked it up, and Yellowstone went on to become its biggest hit, running for 5 seasons. It spawned a franchise that would go on to include 1883, that got 1 season in 2021, and 1923, which got 2 seasons between 2022 and 2025. What if you could go to Disneyland's Frontier Town, except it's an actual town and you could actually kill or not kill the animatronics? That's a little of what Westworld explored, at least in its first season. Premiering in 2016, the HBO series ran for 4 seasons and 36 episodes, airing its last in 2022 after a 2-year delay. It was actually supposed to get a 5th season but was cancelled in the midst of the Warner Brothers Discovery merger. The show was a reboot of sorts of Michael Crichton's 1973 film, Westworld, and its sequel, Future World. The sprawling sci-fi epic touched on themes of free will, technology, and AI, and life's purpose, all set to a killer soundtrack, thanks to series composer Ramin Djawadi. The year before Stranger Things premiered, Netflix began releasing a series of Marvel projects. Luke Cage was the 3rd of those entries, premiering in 2016 and running for 2 seasons. Mike Colter starred in the title role, playing a former convict with unbreakable skin and superhuman strength, as he fights to keep Harlem out of the hands of its crime bosses. The following year, we got The Punisher, the 6th and final installment of Netflix's Marvel lineup. We could also talk about Iron Fist and The Defenders here, but do we really want to? Starring John Bernthal as vigilante Frank Castle, aka The Punisher, that show also ran for 2 seasons, ending in 2019. Both were grittier, less CGI-heavy takes on the MCU, but The Punisher really ran with it.
Listen, ass. There's 1 of you and 6.
Good news for fans. As recently as September 2025, Coulter hinted that Luke Cage could be headed toward a revival. As for The Punisher, Bernthal reprised his role for Disney Plus's Daredevil Born Again, and you can expect to see him in a standalone Punisher TV special in 2026. The Good Place wasn't the first show to explore the afterlife, but it was one of the best. Kristen Bell starred as Eleanor Shellstrop, a recently deceased woman who finds herself in an absurd utopia dubbed The Good Place, which was designed by Ted Danson's Michael. Eleanor, who was not in fact a good person, spent 50 episodes over the course of 4 seasons working to become one, with the help of a stellar supporting cast. The show was a hit with both viewers and critics, and it managed to do something that not many series can. It got better the further it went along, with its final season scoring 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. How's that for ending in a good place? Premiering in September 2016, Donald Glover's Atlanta would spend 4 seasons exploring the weird, like sometimes really weird.
You're my sacrifice.
world of the Atlanta hip-hop scene. Featuring an all-black writer's room, Atlanta wasn't afraid to tackle heavier subjects, which it did through a surrealist lens. With a cast that included Brian Tyree Henry, Lakeith Stanfield, and Zazie Beetz, the series was universally praised and is widely considered to be one of the best shows ever made. And its quality doesn't wane. Atlanta stayed beautifully bizarre throughout its entire run. Most shows, particularly of the family drama variety, are pretty linear in their storytelling. Not This Is Us though. Over the course of 6 seasons and 106 episodes, the show thrust its audience into the lives of the Pearson family throughout decades, exploring love, loss, and everything in between. There were time jumps, there were multiple actors playing the same characters, and there was an immense need to keep a box of tissues on hand while watching.
This is quite sad, isn't it?
This Is Us tugged at heartstrings harder than any show on air at the time. 6 seasons might not sound like a lot, but the series managed to pack everything you could think of into it. Queen Elizabeth II died in 2022 at age 96 after having served as England's reigning monarch for over 70 years. Netflix's The Crown documented that reign over 6 seasons and 60 episodes between 2016 and 2023, meaning the streamer is actually capable of delivering high-quality TV on a fairly consistent schedule. As each season covered a different portion of Elizabeth's life, actors were rotated in and out pretty regularly, but dozens of well-known names made it into the credits, and several of those took home awards for their performances. All told, the show was nominated for over 400 awards throughout its run, and it even managed to make a few fans in the real royal family, supposedly.
Get a snack, settle in, because I'm about to tell you the story of my life.
There's no shortage of teen dramas out there, but 13 Reasons Why decided to take a different approach from the norm and focus its story on one teen's decision to take her own life and the people around her who affected that decision. The show spent 4 seasons exploring that death and the fallout afterwards. It was a lot. With an ensemble cast led by Dylan Minnette and Catherine Langford, 13 Reasons Why was genuinely well received in its first season. It was a candid look at a lot of social issues teenagers face today. Seasons 2 through 4, mostly unnecessary, although the performances were still pretty commendable. FX has always been unafraid to take chances on the stories it tells, and in 2017, the network set its sights on the crack cocaine epidemic that hit Los Angeles in the 1980s with Snowfall. The show followed Franklin Saint, a young drug dealer and up-and-coming kingpin played by Damson Idris, and the CIA's involvement in foreign politics at the time through the lens of Carter Hudson's Teddy McDonald. The show, which aired 60 episodes over 6 seasons, was ambitious in its storytelling and world-building, and Idris was widely praised by critics for his leading performance. Its accuracy is debatable, depending on how much of the CIA created the crack epidemic theory you buy into, but it's an entertaining ride nonetheless. Rachel Brosnahan and Alex Borstein led the cast of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, a dramedy created by Ammon Sherman Palladino. She's who was responsible for Gilmore Girls. Set in the 1950s and 60s, the show followed Miriam Midge Maisel as she set about carving a career in comedy after the end of her marriage. It was given 5 seasons on Amazon Prime, which aired between 2017 and 2023. With The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Sherman Palladino's quick-fire dialogue skills combined with Brosnahan's natural charm to create something that was a hit with both viewers and critics. The show was praised for its gorgeous production and genuine performances, and went on to win nearly 100 awards in its time on the air. In 2017, CBS premiered Star Trek Discovery, a prequel to the original series. The show was set aboard the USS Discovery, a science vessel fitted with a spore drive that allowed for interdimensional travel. For 5 seasons, the crew of the Discovery time jumped, they universe jumped, they had many adventures, and CBS knew there was more Trek to explore. In 2020, we got Star Trek Picard, a follow-up series to The Next Generation that focused on Jean-Luc Picard's later years and adventures. That lasted for 3 seasons. And for Trek fans looking for something animated, there was also Star Trek Lower Decks, a comedy following the low-ranking USS Cerritos. That one got 5 seasons. Back in 2017, dystopian America was still just a fictional what-if, and that's when The Handmaid's Tale premiered on Hulu. Based on Margaret Atwood's 1985 novel, the show took place in an America under theocratic rule, where fertile women are forced to be handmaids, childbearing slaves for the ruling elite. Elizabeth Moss starred as June Osborne, a woman forced to become a handmaid, who eventually works to overthrow the Gilead government. For 6 seasons, the show delved into politics, sexism, and authoritarianism in an engrossing and little terrifying way. It also made history. In 2017, The Handmaid's Tale won the Emmy for Outstanding Drama Series, becoming the first streaming show ever to do so. Who doesn't love a little espionage and a lot of sexual tension? In 2018, BBC premiered Killing Eve, a spy thriller centered on Sandra Oh's Eve Polastri, a British military intelligence officer who becomes obsessed with Jodie Comer's psychopathic assassin, Villanelle.
You should never tell a psychopath they are a psychopath. It upsets them.
Killing Eve had a 4-season run, and while its later seasons were not as well received as its earlier ones, the show was highly praised for its overall commitment to insanity. It was well written, weirdly hilarious, and a completely different take on the genre. Centered on the Roy family as its patriarch's declining health puts the future of their media conglomerate into question, Succession was a biting satire on wealth, family dynamics, and business.
He did not fire me. He said it was just going to take a little longer.
What I think he meant to say was that he wished that mom gave birth to a can opener because at least then it would be useful.
The show was a critical success, racking up 19 Emmys during its time on air. Season 2 alone was nominated for 25, 14 of those in acting categories, breaking the record for Emmy acting nominations for a drama in a single year. There was much to love about Succession, even with its characters being entirely unlovable. That's saying something.
Hello there. Who are you?
An obsessive stalker with a love of literature and a penchant for murder was at the center of You, Netflix's soapy thriller that got 5 seasons between 2018 and 2025. Penn Badgley starred a serial killer, Joe Goldberg, and if you're wondering how it's possible to continue to root for a character you would, in reality, think is creepy and terrible, well, the answer is no one really knows, but You managed to do it. The show required a fair bit of suspension of disbelief. Seriously, the chances of Joe getting away with his crimes in real life are pretty slim to none. But that's kind of what worked about it. That and its incredible performances. Badgley's especially made it all worth the watch. Ask any 80s kid who the hero of 1984's The Karate Kid is, and they'll tell you, well, that actually depends. Because for many, the true hero of that film was William Zabka's Johnny Lawrence, and he would have totally won that tournament if not for an illegal kick to the face. 34 years after his defeat at the hands of Ralph Macchio's Daniel LaRusso is where Cobra Kai picked up Johnny's story.
If you want to get technical, I kicked his face. I'm just busting your chops.
It was an illegal kick.
Johnny, who started the series as an alcoholic deadbeat dad, spent 65 episodes over 6 seasons and 2 separate streaming platforms, getting his well-deserved redemption arc. And yeah, he and Daniel finally got to properly hash things out. By 2019, the superhero craze was well underway. The MCU was already nearing the end of Phase 3 when The Umbrella Academy debuted on Netflix. The series was based on a comic by Gerard Way that first came out in 2007 and centered on a group of dysfunctional adopted siblings who, thanks to some cosmic shenanigans, were born with kind of bizarre powers. And it was pretty much what you'd expect if your favorite emo kid wrote about superheroes. The show lasted for 4 seasons, and in that time, we got everything from time travel to secret dimensions to multiple apocalypses. It was a flashy, smart, gory, wild ride. And at its core, it was a love letter to chosen families and all the eccentricities we learned to love in the people around us. Before Taika Waititi was an Academy Award winner and Thor movie maker, he co-wrote, co-directed, and starred in the vampire mockumentary What We Do in the Shadows. It was an unexpected hit with critics, and in 2019, FX took the premise and turned it into a series, which, like its feature-length namesake, wound up beloved by both critics and fans. The show, which had a 6-season run, followed 3 traditional vampires and 1 energy vampire, along with the Familiar, as they navigated their way to the modern world. It was silly, witty, and in spite of the inherent blood loss, was full of heart and some of the most killer cameos on TV.
Kiefer?
I don't see Kiefer. Kiefer said they wanted to do it, but he couldn't come.
He was busy? Tom and Brad?
Tom
not interested.
Danny McBride found small-screen success on HBO back in 2009 with Eastbound and Down, and again with 2016's Vice Principals. But 2019's The Righteous Gemstones might have been his greatest series. McBride starred alongside E.D. Patterson and Adam Devine as siblings in a family of South Carolina televangelists who, while obscenely rich, are not the most mature adults in the world.
Is this because of the damn poll numbers?
Which poll numbers, Jesse? The ones that were 85% said you're colder than a ice cube shoved up a polar bear's asshole?
For 4 seasons, we got to watch the Gemstones fight, swindle, and eventually come together as a loving family. It was peak McBride humor, wrapped up in a Southern Christian bow. It also gave us Uncle Baby Billy, which could just be the best thing Walton Goggins has ever done.
Ta-da! Look who it is.
In 2021, the MCU made its way to Disney's small screen with WandaVision, a single-season ode to classic sitcoms centered on, you guessed it, Wanda Maximoff and Vision. And then in true MCU fashion, releases just kept coming and also going. That same year, we got The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, which got 2 seasons before ending in 2023. What If? That got 3 seasons. And Hawkeye. 2022 saw the releases of Moon Knight, Ms. Marvel, I Am Groot, and She-Hulk Attorney at Law. In 2023, there was Secret Invasion and Echo. 2024, that was Agatha All Along. Were most of these planned single-season ventures? Yes. Does it take away from the fact that Marvel managed to release a combined 110 episodes and complete 12 separate stories before Stranger Things could get through one? Come on. Disney Plus wasn't just focusing on Marvel content while Stranger Things was on. There was plenty of Star Wars stuff to do too. In 2021, in that galaxy far, far away, we got The Bad Batch, which ran for 3 seasons, and a single season of The Book of Boba Fett. The next year brought Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor, which was given 2 seasons, and 2024 saw The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew. Again, most of these shows technically fall into the miniseries category, being that they begin and end in a single season. And let's be real here, not all of them were great, or even all that good. But altogether, just between 2021 and 2024, Disney Plus aired 100 episodes of completed Star Wars shows. Take a few hundred poor, desperate people and have them compete against each other in children's games. The winner takes home $30 to $40 million, and the losers, well, they all die. That was the premise of Squid Game, a Korean dystopian thriller created by Hwang Dong-hyuk, which got a 3-season run on Netflix. Hwang's allegory about modern capitalist society was a huge hit for the streamer, becoming the first K-drama to take the #1 rating spot in the US and the first non-English show to be nominated for an Outstanding Drama Emmy.